listening to Pop This, the podcast where three women talk about pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen, Andrea Gin, and Andrea Warner.
So I am having a hard time adjusting to this life after holiday. I know many people have expressed this about that weird week between Christmas and New Year's, and I had a few extra days on either side, and I think I went through like a good 3 to 4 day streak of no bathing. Just
good for you.
Just laying on my couch, and I had to go back to work today, and it was culture shock. I really, honestly, this year in particular, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if there has been a little bit of that thing of the pandemic where it was very upsetting during it, but now I'm like, oh, but that was a lot of time at home, and I don't think I think I like that a lot, actually, as it turned out. So yeah, I'm having a hard time adjusting this particular week.
I kind of feel that too. I don't know why it's this particular year, because it feels even more so that like you're just like building up and waiting for the holidays to happen so you can have this time to relax and rest and stuff. And now that it's over, it seems like an extra huge obstacle to have to go back to regular work and do regular life even more so than usual. And yeah, I don't know why. I can't explain it, why this year is worse than seemingly other years. Because it's the same. It should be the same.
I've done this many, countless times, actually. But today I was just like, even my brain was just not quite functioning. I was at work trying to like book an interview with someone in the next couple of weeks, and they wrote back, what sort of time availabilities do you have over the next 2 weeks? And I just wrote back, what about 3 p.m.? That's all I wrote.
You don't know how to do email anymore.
I don't even know how to. And they came back with 3 p.m. on a particular day, or would you like me to be free all the 3 p.m.s for the next while? And I went, I don't even know why I wrote that. I don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, Andrea Warner is not with us today. She is off working on a writing project. But she recently noted that taking a couple weeks off the podcast, she forgot how to use her recording stuff.
Yeah.
Completely. So, yeah, I don't know. I just think there's something about this year where everybody just wanted to switch their brains off completely during the holidays, and it's just been a real burden to try to turn them back on, I guess.
It's that blank feeling I have too when I have to remember a password. There's so many of them, and my work one changes every 3 months. And I try to come up with something that I think I'll remember, but today I just stared and thought, well, I don't know what I'm going to do now. And then it came to me. So, there were a couple of breakthroughs, just a very few, but yeah, I don't know. I have to do this again tomorrow, apparently. Oh, wait a minute. Also the next day, too. And then next week.
Helen, you're a person who's self-employed.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if I don't know if you feel that similar burden of getting back to work as much.
Well, yeah, it's still terrible. It's just I can be terrible in my own home. But I think my brain has just had it. It's like this again.
Yeah.
No, we've done this before. We've done this enough times. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
It's the end.
The end times, yeah.
I know. What happens, Lisa? Are we just going to stay on is this going to just stay challenging for the foreseeable future? Or do you think that at some point we all just get back with it?
No, I don't. I think what I would like to start seeing more of is some creative post-apocalyptic fiction. Usually it's very sad and dire and, eating each other or whatever. But, just the apocalypse has happened and people are just sitting there going, oh, finally. like just a real relief. You know, like we're starting over again. Let's do it all different. Like they never ever make any positive post-apocalyptic fiction. I've never seen anything uplifting. It's always very depressing.
What a wasted opportunity.
Yeah, it's true. Lisa, that might be your opening. That could be your calling.
To write the first optimistic post-apocalyptic fiction or a movie where everyone's just like, finally, oh my gosh, that sounds great. They all just quickly run to a river or some water body and just throw their phones in it, just thrilled that they'll never have to use them again.
Yeah.
Yep. All the patriarchal leaders have gone off to the moon or wherever, leaving everyone in peace.
And they can't get back. There's no way. Yeah, all of them went up there. Yeah, see? Do you see? This is okay. Now I feel a little spark of something good now. Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
See, we're achieving stuff.
You could write like the follow-up to The Last of Us. It would be like, or I guess what would you call it when it's like a different version of the same story? But,
well, okay.
Yeah, it would be like
Have to
The
make-
Last of Us, Lisa's version.
Yeah, so the thing that would have to happen is that in my version, the zombies are not cruel and, you know, eating you or turn into whatever. I think they turn into some kind of fungus, right? In The Last of Us. And instead, there's no zombies, and it's just a bunch of very relieved people walking around, just, you know, just in their homes, just would look, you look tired, you want to come in for a drink, like, you know, just a lot of happiness.
And people don't have to go to work anymore.
Parties, you know, just like just some good times. I'm really seeing. So you gotta, in my future, we have to get rid of the zombies. Like that's a big problem. Most of these.
What if the zombies are nice?
Well, yeah, exactly. What if they are?
It's your world. What if they're pretty chill and no trouble at all? What if then?
Yeah, exactly. I don't mind those kinds of zombies. I don't like the other kind, the ones that are always chasing everybody.
No, you want zombies that are going to make sure that the sewerage is still working fine while everyone else doesn't show up to work.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't want to create like an underclass of people, though. That's not. That's another challenge.
That's what I was wondering too. Like, how would like services happen and stuff like that, like food distribution?
To have to train up some St. Bernards.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't got it all worked out yet by any means, but I'm just saying that I think that we're being sold some bill of goods that makes everybody like work way too hard to protect something that I don't even know if we really want to protect. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you make a good point, and I think that it actually leads into kind of some of the themes of the movie that we're talking about.
I am okay. Prove that one on me. I'm like, okay.
Well, I mean, a lot of the characters in this movie are pretty
Nihilistic.
Yeah, they're like disenchanted with society.
That's fair. Yep.
I mean, if you said that they were all dead and they're in purgatory and they have to win a karaoke contest to get out of purgatory, then I think everything would work.
Yeah, I like that idea. Maybe that's what this is. It's like a grand 3D chess, and we didn't notice all along they were in purgatory.
So, bold new reading.
You're listening to Pop This. I'm Andrea Gin.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Helen Zaltzman.
Welcome, Helen.
Hello, Helen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us and sitting in for Andrea Warner this week, who, as I mentioned, is off working on a writing project. She'll be back in 3 episodes from now. So, or no, 2 episodes from now. So in the meantime, we're going to have some guests sit in with us. And we are thrilled to have Helen here today to talk about duets.
Are you thrilled about talking about duets? Are you?
We're thrilled to have you. Unfortunately, we've invited many a guest on to talk about something dubious. We're never really living down that we invited Stephen Schelling on to do Xanadu. So,
yeah, at least it's not Xanadu.
Yeah.
I've not watched Xanadu. I assume I shouldn't. Is there karaoke in it, though?
Save yourself.
I mean, I have to sort of put an asterisk here saying that I kind of got it confused. Like, I thought I had heard Helen talk about this movie and say that, like, oh, she's seen it a bunch of times and that she'd be interested in talking about it. And I had the impression that this movie was like her choice to talk about when we came. But apparently I was incorrect about that. I don't know how all happened, Helen. I don't know how it happened then at all.
I think Duets is a film where a lot of people are asking, how did this happen? It's a true mystery in that sense. And it's 23 years or more since this film was released. And that mystery has become no less mysterious.
Well, so we should start by introducing Helen Zaltzman to anyone who's listening who hasn't heard her dulcet tones before. She is a podcaster and broadcaster who's the host of several podcasts, including The Allusionist, Answer Me This, and Veronica Mars Investigations. And also a person who has just relocated to Vancouver from London, England.
Because Vancouver is where most of Duets was filmed.
Yes! You followed the trail of Duets,
and that's
did you?
Why.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I put in my application for a work permit. I gotta be here because this is where the most of Duets was shot, except for the bits in Utah.
So how long have you been here so far, and how have you been enjoying Vancouver?
It's coming up to a year in mid-January, and I'm enjoying it immensely. I'm having such a nice time.
Do you not miss London, a big city, or
no?
You don't miss it. Oh.
No, I mean, I know it's still there if I start to, but I lived there for the best part of 20 years. So towards the end, I just kept feeling like I was about to run into my 23-year-old self, and I didn't want that to happen.
And so far, everything's been good in Vancouver. No doppelgangers running around?
No past selves. No, I suppose I could run into my 42-year-old self, i.e. the one that moved here just under a year ago. But that's not such a dissimilar thing. That's not such a symbol of the hopes and dreams I had then that 20 years did not deliver.
So
yeah.
You just sort of, I don't know, woke up one day and decided you wanted to move to a different country?
Well, it was a little more gradual than that. But I did wake up one day and during the brief period I'd been asleep, Brexit had happened. And that really made me want to get out of the UK. And then I did. And then COVID happened. So I had to go back. And then COVID carried on happening. But I thought I can probably leave again now.
Wow. So it's the last couple of years have been rather tumultuous then.
A little bit. A little bit. But not as tumultuous as the film Duets. A veritable 113 minutes of tumult.
And again, we don't know why we did this. Like, we just randomly are talking about this movie that I avoided for many years. What did you say, 23? So at least that many years. Because I've never heard a good thing about it. And here I am watching it.
No one has.
And we are by no means Gwyneth Paltrow completists. I think this might be the first movie of hers we've discussed.
Which is
on this
wild.
podcast.
Interesting. Because she did do some great ones around this time. Like the second half of the 90s was very good for her. I rewatched Shakespeare in Love.
Yeah,
to
she
go
won
with
a
this one.
freaking Oscar.
Yeah.
She won a freaking Oscar for it. I will say it's a perfectly decent acting performance. It's not really sublime or anything.
Yeah.
It's solid. It's a solid film.
Yeah. And I think, well, I mean, I think then you watch Duets and you're like, this is an Oscar winner performing.
Oh, yeah, for everyone.
In this movie.
Yeah. Where is the ensemble cast Oscar?
Well, I'd like to think that she was just being very kind to her father, who I think wrote and directed this, or at least directed this.
Directed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The writer, John Byram, was one of the original writers for Sesame Street. From that to this.
But I mean, the rest of the cast is amazing in this movie.
I know.
Paul Giamatti, Maria Bello, Angie Dickinson.
Scott Speedman.
And Andre Brower. Like, those are all people who are considered excellent actors.
Maya Rudolph in like a three-line part. Oh, and she and her father were the music supervisors on this.
I know that Maya Rudolph and Gwyneth Paltrow went to school together, like in New York. I did see something on that. So they're like actually old friends. Again, doesn't really explain how this happened, but we're looking for clues.
Yeah. And Brad Pitt was supposed to be in this, in the Scott Speedman part, but he and Gwyneth Paltrow broke up.
Oh my, are you serious?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That is a wild thought.
Yes.
Yeah, because that is such a nothingy role, the Scott Speedman role. He's just there to fill some air molecules
Yeah.
and drive a car around. Doesn't even have to do karaoke in a karaoke film.
No.
Elisa, do you want to read the background of Duets?
Sure.
In case no one is familiar, someone isn't familiar who's listening.
Luckily for
In
them.
case.
Yes. Duets is a 2000 American road trip film co-produced and directed by Bruce Paltrow and written by John Byram. The motion picture features an ensemble cast with Gwyneth Paltrow, Huey Lewis, we forgot, Paul Giamatti, Maria Bello, Angie Dickinson, Scott Speedman, and Andre Braugher, among others. And just a quick note, yes, that Andre Braugher sadly passed away in December from lung cancer. He was 61. An original motion picture soundtrack was released on September 12th, 2000 by Hollywood Records. The soundtrack spawned 2 hit singles in Australia. This is a wild little fact here, including Gwyneth Paltrow and Huey Lewis's Cruisin', which spent 2 weeks at number 1, and Paltrow's Betty Davis Eyes, which hit number 3 there. Cruisin' did even better in New Zealand, spending 5 weeks at number 1. This is from Wikipedia. That is just like the wildest thing to even comprehend.
Why only in Australia and New Zealand? What possible explanation could there be for that?
Do you want, as a side note, this is one of these things that a story I always liked. Do either of you know that movie called Phantom of the Paradise?
Oh.
It's like a glam rock version of Phantom of the Opera. It was made in the 70s. Paul Williams wrote most of the music. It's really crazy, dark movie. Anyway, this is the weird thing. The film did not do well. It was a flop. But there were 2 cities where it was huge, kind of like this New Zealand thing. The 2 cities are Winnipeg and Paris, France.
Oh.
And I did
just got more refined taste.
Yeah, I didn't. I heard a CBC documentary about it. So then jump ahead, and when Daft Punk went to work on a new album, they wanted to work with Paul Williams. Why? Because he wrote Phantom of the Paradise, and they were so in love with that movie, being Parisian. So, and I have a friend in Winnipeg I said that to her, and she said, yeah, didn't you watch that film? And I went, no, never. And she was like, oh my God, everybody loved that film so much.
Wow.
Yeah.
How does that happen? How does that happen? I want someone to do like an investigation into these cultural phenomenons.
Yeah, and the fascinating thing is this is all pre-internet, right? Like people had to like somehow word of mouth or a DJ or somebody had some power in there, but I don't understand it.
Well, in New Zealand, there's only, 5 million people? So word of mouth, probably one mouth can reach most of those 5 million people.
Yeah, and in the year 2000, how many was
hit.
that too, right?
Maybe there is like some really powerful soft rock station in both countries that just play this like 25 times a day.
I mean, did you cross-reference to see how Huey Lewis did than the news? In New Zealand and Australia?
No, I didn't. No. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe Huey Lewis is huge in both countries.
I don't know. I'm just saying. Yeah.
Okay, let me read the synopsis for this movie before we get into it. Duets follows 6 characters all making their way to the national karaoke competition in Omaha, Nebraska, by way of smaller qualifying competitions held in seemingly every dive bar in every town across America. How true can that be? Anyway.
I was trying to remember, just as another aside, like, was there a time where karaoke was just like this wild, crazy thing? Like it was so new? I don't recall this.
There was definitely a time when it was new, and I was wondering whether that was part of the writing of this film, where he'd read about karaoke in a newspaper and thought that sounds interesting and wrote a film about it without ever having done it or observed it.
Yeah, I know. I think, Lisa, like I was wondering like if being in Vancouver has sort of, skewed our perception of it, because like karaoke has been huge in Asia for so long, and therefore Vancouver's had karaoke bars forever, and so it doesn't seem like it ever was like there was an explosion of karaoke.
No, and the way that Paul Giamatti was like, it's called what in this movie was just wild.
And then immediately gets very high on karaoke and drugs, but mostly karaoke.
Mostly karaoke, yeah.
It's like, what is this? I got to get more of it.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, Maria Bello plays a sort of manic pixie sex worker who hitches a ride with Scott Speedman, an almost priest turned cabbie. Paul Giamatti abandons his suburban life of drudgery and corporate job to get one ear pierced.
It's clearly a clip-on. They show the back of it very extensively.
Do a frankly anxiety-inducing amount of drunk driving and bond with ex-con Andre Braugher, who teaches him important lessons before dying in the above-mentioned fashion. Huey Lewis is a karaoke hustler, like a pool shark who lulls people into betting. I have to go back to that last sentence where it says above-mentioned fashion, because I guess that was from a different part of the article that I didn't fully copy in from the Thrillist.
I was wondering what that was.
So, he gets gunned down on stage by the police.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the only black major character in this film is criminal, gets gunned down by police.
Who
great stuff.
Decides to sacrifice himself for confusing reasons for this random person that's
just one of the many confusing things in this movie. So,
Huey Lewis is a karaoke hustler, like a pool shark who lulls people into betting money that he can't sing by wearing a pair of fake glasses like Clark Kent. Reunited for the first time with his adult daughter, Gwyneth Paltrow, who has the voice of a sex pot and the mind of a child. If you remember this movie at all, it's likely because their performance of Smokey Robinson's Cruisin' became a bona fide radio hit, and that is from Brandy Jensen in Thrillist.
Well, thank you, Brandy. That was just the right amount of editorializing there.
Yeah. So I have one sort of scene-setting question I want to see if either of you know the answer to, but how were the winners of these karaoke contests determined?
Hard to say. There's one round where Maria Bello performs and immediately wins.
Yeah.
I didn't see any judging or
what is it? It wasn't clear what the judging was even based on. It seemed like the MCs mostly were just deciding.
I'm bored now. Let's give them the money and then I can go home.
But so there are karaoke competitions that do exist, but I think from what I was trying to read, I think there's judges who judge it.
That would make sense.
That was not a part of this movie at all. Yeah.
I also didn't know how it was that the audience knew when the end of a song was, because most of the songs, I think they didn't have a huge budget for music rights. So a lot of these songs are very album track that they're performing, and they go on in a monotonous way. And then at some point, the audience knows it's the end and they applaud. But what's the signal for that?
Yeah. I was also just wondering how every town seems to have a star karaoke artist who has an agent already, but then we never see them again, and they seem to be in small towns. How many karaoke bars are there in these 2-bit towns? I was very confused about that as well.
I think maybe it's a science fiction film, an alternate reality.
Yeah, because I understand that there are karaoke competitions that happen, but the way that this was presented did not make any sense whatsoever. Because what is the point of hiring an agent? Where are you going with your karaoke skills?
Oh, I assumed that the guy who had an agent, it wasn't a real agent. There seemed to be some doubt over it being an agent or just another guy who was on the take.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, I'm not going to dispute you because, Helen, you've seen this movie 3 times.
I have seen this. I think I'm the only person who's seen it 3 times. I don't think even Bruce Paltrow has seen it 3 times. Why, indeed? Well, I first saw it, I would guess, around 2003 when I had just moved to London after graduating and I was doing a really, really boring job for below minimum wage from home. So I just watched whatever was on TV at the time. I think that would be my Duets origin story. And I remember having read bad things about it when it came out. And it lived up to those things. But I would say it's not got worse upon rewatching 20-something years later. It
Really?
has stayed the same. So in a sense,
so-
it's held up.
But so you watched it once and then decided to watch it 2 more times.
Well, decided is a strong term because I did it for you and this show. I thought it important
The third time, you mean?
The third time.
Yeah,
So
for the
but there's
third
a
time.
second one in the middle.
came,
That's the, yeah.
I can explain it, I promise. So last January, I went to Jen Suk-Fong Lee's book launch of Superfan, in which she talks about duets. And friends of this show, Snera Geisler and Hannah McGregor, performed an exquisite version of Cruisin'. And from that, we all thought, hey, wouldn't it be fun to watch duets? And in a sense, it's only as fun as this film is fun, which is a lot less fun than you would think a film about karaoke should be. But it's basically a crime film. And in order to get Disney to distribute it, Bruce Paltrow had to cut 15 minutes of gun violence in a film that already has quite a bit of gun violence. So I think he intended to make a gun film that happened to have karaoke in it.
Was there all the gun violence between our ex-con and Paul Giamatti? Like, was it, or was there other, was it like the guy in the cab and all that? Because that was all.
No, they're the gun guys. Gwyneth Paltrow does hit someone with a chair.
Yeah.
I know.
That's exciting.
Bar brawls over karaoke. That's a
I
little...
mean, who hasn't?
Yeah. I mean, Lisa, had you seen this movie before?
No, and purposefully. I mean, I knew that it was meant to be quite bad, and I just, the old, there's 2 hours of my life I won't get back. I mean, fair, it was under 2 hours. I think it was 1:52?
1:13.
1:13?
Yeah, 113 minutes.
That's
sorry.
it. Okay. Very kind amount of time. But as you said, it had to be cut by 15 minutes.
Just the gun violence. We don't know how much other stuff was cut.
Yeah, so it could have been...
Just for being not good.
I mean, I'd like to... Part of me, when you say that, makes me think, could it have been a better movie? But I don't see what... I can't... Because the premise isn't working. None of the storylines seem to work. How do you become like a singing hustler? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. How do you know that every single town you go to is going to be a Huey Lewis fan? Like, like it's...
Well, exactly. Like what... Yeah.
His
like, how
heyday
would
was
he
in the
win
80s,
it?
right?
How would he know that he would win for sure? Because...
Yeah.
Yeah.
His performances are competent, sure, but they're not spellbinding. There's a couple of really good bits of karaoke in this, and they're not his.
Yeah. That's a important thing to note. Like, he's the professional singer, but karaoke is more about kind of like character and I don't know, quirkiness and the performance of it. It's not just about having a professional vocals singing it.
Because then anyone would do it, right? Like in that way.
Right,
Yeah.
and I think the performances that really go well are the ones where the karaokeist and the audience are very connected. And those performances are Copacabana near the end
Yes.
by someone who gets no lines in this film, and Paul Giamatti and Andre Braugher, although someone else is singing his lines. Albert McCullough is singing his vocals. They sing Try a Little Tenderness. And you're like, okay, this is one of the few performances where the audience is going wild for it that I am convinced that I would as well if I was there. Whereas the rest, I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't stop chatting to my friend in this bar if someone was doing this.
I was just going to say, it's very
two are
rare to go and do karaoke that everyone cares as well. Like, you have to be,
right.
there's still people drinking and talking, and you're just kind of having your fun in the corner in a way.
Yeah, right. But in this, people are dancing. They seem very invested.
Yeah.
Because it's a science fiction film where karaoke is the most important thing.
I like how we're calling it a science fiction film now. That's excellent.
It helps.
It helps, and it explains an awful lot. Yes, it does. Because there are just so many. I also don't really understand why we needed so many storylines like this.
Oh, I think because it's like The Stand. You have multiple storylines where eventually everyone converges on a big event in the middle of the USA.
Right.
And The Stand, that's like a fight between good and evil. And this is karaoke contest for $5,000 prize.
Yeah, except there's a horrible killing at the climax of this movie. And it's like, I was thinking about how they wouldn't really make this movie in the same, they wouldn't write this story in the same way today at all.
No. What were you expecting of this versus what you got?
I was expecting the climax to be the karaoke competition. I wasn't expecting gun violence or, I was expecting it to be a fun buddy road trip comedy that it would just sort of where nothing really happened. And that's why it wasn't a very successful movie. Like it was just, I didn't expect it to be like, I just didn't expect the violent sort of climax to this movie.
No, it's not a fun movie. It's not frothy. It's not camp. It's not jolly. There's not enough duets. There are very few duets in a film entitled Duets.
Yeah, and also I felt like I almost needed to watch certain scenes over. Thought that is what made Paul Giamatti leave. Like his kids ignored him for a bit when they came home, and his wife was busy, and then he just implodes. Like it was well over the top. And
they wanted some falling down stuff, but karaoke.
Yeah, I think what I actually thought in my head, and I never bothered to do any research at all in this, but I thought it was a movie about Gwyneth Paltrow and Huey Lewis just traveling around to different bars singing karaoke. I don't know why they were doing it, but that's what I thought it was. I didn't know that all that other stuff was going on, like that we'd have to go, suffer through all these other really boring stories, and how uncomfortable it was to watch that when Huey and Gwyneth Paltrow meet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the father-daughter flirting throughout the movie was uncomfortable.
Troubling.
Yeah.
Especially because it's directed by Gwyneth Paltrow's father. It's his last film. He was going through cancer treatment when he made it, so perhaps I should give him some leeway, but the raw material doesn't seem strong. But yeah, what does it mean in that context? To me, it sort of reminds me of, have you read Forever by Judy Blume?
Yes.
No.
Well, the life-ruining fact about that is Judy Blume's father's name was Ralph.
Oh.
And if you've read that...
Yeah.
And this reminded me of that. But Gwyneth Paltrow, how old is her character meant to be?
I was going to ask that too. Is she supposed to be a teenager?
Hard to say because she's working in Vegas.
So she's probably, what is she like in this movie, like mid-20s?
She's 28 when it came out.
Oh, okay.
But her character only makes sense if she's in a body swap film where she's like an 8-year-old in the body of an adult.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because she's wearing like ponytails.
And she's very naive and very like pouty, and it didn't make sense given that she was supposed to have had a hard life or something.
But only someone who's 8 has that kind of treats their dad like that.
Yeah, she's just met her dad at her mother's funeral, and immediately she's like, "Daddy, Daddy!"
Yeah.
So, there's probably a lot to work through there, but there's a lot unexplained.
Like, why was Angie Dickinson in this? Like, come on, Angie, what were you doing? Like, boy.
Michael Bublé is also in this.
He didn't know any better. I do not. And Brent Butt, too.
Yeah.
They were all just hanging around in Vancouver, and they got to do like a half day of filming.
I mean, it is kind of surreal to see Gwyneth Paltrow's performance in this because she is, because we're so used to like, Gwyneth Paltrow Goop founder now and like what her persona is now. But to see her in this movie playing like a really young girl, like acting really girlish, I don't know, is a bit of a surreal experience.
Yeah, she's acting like she is extremely young, but she is dressed in very revealing clothes. Mm-hmm. But with a certain naivety, like those little plastic clips that look like butterflies that were big at the time. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to say. Oh, James Cameron makes an uncredited appearance
what?
as well. As,
where?
Karaoke singer. Well, I missed it.
Oh.
But somewhere he's karaokeing away.
Really?
Gosh, I didn't notice that. No.
Yeah.
I was all excited noticing that Brett Butt was one of the concierge at the hotel there, but did not notice James Cameron, no.
But I mean, like, what do you think Gwyneth Paltrow's character was supposed to be before the director cast his daughter for this role? Because she's supposed to be like a showgirl, I guess. But I pictured her like just being much younger. She would have to be so naive. But I guess you have to be a certain age to be a showgirl. I don't know.
It's a lot of sexy baby vibe.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's this odd, I don't know if it's meant to be religious or spiritual, but with our almost priest driving the cab. And there's this line that Maria Bello has where she says, I hope you're able to meet someone as pure or whatever. Is it something like that she says to him? And then he meets Gwyneth. And so are we meant to think she's some kind of divine like entity or something? Saving people? I don't know. Maybe I'm overreaching there.
Yeah.
Also like an angel, like in It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
Sent to change people. Well, there's so much more going on in this film than at first glance. Maybe people just didn't understand it at the time.
Well, I'm throwing out bones here, seeing what comes, what everyone wants. But there just seemed to be some kind of message there that she was, despite the fact that she had this, tragic sort of upbringing without her father and her mother not being able to keep mayonnaise in the fridge because the power would go out and all of these things, she still turned out to be this light, this breath of fresh, and
It's pure soul.
Pure soul, exactly. Yeah. So are we meant to get something from that?
I mean, what do you get from her vocal performances? Because I remember at the time, the press around this film was like, Gwyneth Paltrow's doing a sing.
Yeah, well,
does.
I mean, I think it was just another like, oh, amazing. Like she's also great at singing. And I mean, she continued to she got a lot of acclaim for her performances in Glee. So I mean, to her credit, she does have a nice voice that people like to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it just feels like it's so bizarre that she was shoehorned into this movie as this character. It doesn't make any, because she doesn't seem to have a showgirl type of persona in the movie. Yeah, I just totally unconvincing. But Helen, you kind of said that you thought her performance, you didn't mind her performance. You mentioned that before we came on.
I got into it, and I can't work out why. I think because it is such a strange character. It's impossible to reconcile the elements of this character. I couldn't even say whether she did a good job or not, because I don't know what other job could have been done with what she was given. And then she does this weirdly, she does this duet with Huey Lewis at the end. That's this big moment of reconciliation for both of them, which is Cruisin' by Smokey Robinson, supposedly the song that her mum would sing. And why did the film choose this song, which is clearly about a romantic couple, for this daddy-daughter song?
Is cruising meant to be some euphemism? Is that the idea? Or is that?
I mean, I don't know. That's what I was just if you take it in a naive sense, it's a road trip film. Mm-hmm. This song has the word cruising in it. And you're just supposed to picture, this is best case scenario. You're supposed to picture a father and his adult daughter cruising around in a car, singing songs together.
And winning money at every bar.
Yeah.
But the song has a line about one-night stands at the start.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the lyrics here. Baby, tonight belongs to us. Everything right. Do what you must. And inch by inch, we get closer and closer to every little part of each other. Ooh, baby, so let the music take your mind. Just release and you will find.
Choose a different song. Actually, I've just realized what her performance reminds me of.
Why did Maya Rudolph not say that? Or did she? And they just ignored her.
Yeah.
Maybe her dad was like, it's fine. Daddy-daughter stuff. I've just realized what Gwyneth Paltrow's performance reminds me of. And it is Buddy the Elf in Elf.
Oh,
when he goes to the real world.
Yeah.
He's standing way too close to people. He doesn't have a boundary. That's what her character's like when she's getting to know Huey Lewis.
So the movie is also telling us that without fathers, children will just be like babies for their whole life. Even if the fathers decided to leave and abdicate all responsibilities, it's still the fault of the child and the mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, we're solving this film bit by bit.
Well, I mean, because I think it's a lot of people call this a bad movie, but it's not sort of so epically bad. It's like a good movie, or it has like a cult following or something like that. Like there's nothing to grasp onto.
No, it's too puzzling and it's too depressing. I think. And it is just a bit boring because you have 1/3 of the partnerships being Maria Bello, who's just playing kind of stereotypical bad girl. You know this because one of her earliest acts is to steal the cupful of money that a man who is begging is holding.
Yeah.
She's irredeemable from that. And her scene partner is Scott Speedman, who they've given nothing to do. Except he drives her in a car, which she pays to get painted pink with blowjobs.
Yeah, and seemed incredibly offensive. I was really, alarmed at that scene.
Yeah, but it's not even like the top 3 alarming things to happen in this film.
Well, I mean, the ending is just bizarre too, because all of these people have just been witness to this crazy act of violence happening right in front of them. And then the next day they're just like, Huey Lewis's character just says something like, that's the first time I heard Freebird sung like that. Like they just had nothing to say about it.
Yeah, maybe they would have been pedanting about, Andre Braugher sang Freebird a cappella. Is that technically karaoke? If there's no
right, yeah, good point, yeah.
But the reason why his character is gunned down by police at the end is because he and Paul Giamatti have been on this kind of chaotic journey where Andre Braugher he's escaped from prison. Paul Giamatti has escaped from having a fairly comfortable looking life that he's bored of, picks him up the side of the road, teaches him how to drive very dangerously. Paul Giamatti's high on drugs and karaoke, and then they kill a gas station attendant.
Yeah.
And so the police come. And Paul Giamatti just gets to go home.
Yeah.
And murdered.
And the wife actually travels all that way and is supposed to feel bad for her husband. Like, what particular thing was so bad for him? Like, it was so awful.
Yeah, this whole thing just seems like a huge, buried the lead kind of movie, because there's this, very disturbing story at the, center of it that they don't talk about and they kind of ignore, and instead want to talk about this, karaoke competition, which is, doesn't seem meaningful in any way.
Also, didn't seem very well attended. How many songs did we see? It was very odd. It was like they couldn't get enough extras to fill the bar or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of Vancouver's extras were busy that day.
Yeah, something.
There was a big X-Files thing on.
Lisa, do you know which hotel that the Pacific Palisades was? I was trying to figure that out.
Robinson Street, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if I knew if I had been in that hotel.
I think it's apartments now.
Yeah. But yeah, it was the highway stuff was too Vancouver. Everything was so Vancouver.
And they were meant to be in Utah? No, Oklahoma? Where were they? Ohio?
Omaha, Nebraska.
Omaha, Nebraska. There we are.
They did shoot in Utah. I've been to the bits that they were driving in. Not because of Duets. I haven't been on a Duets tour of North America. I have just been to Utah.
Yeah,
they were in it.
Well, now you can go on the Duets tour of Vancouver. So there you are.
Oh, lovely.
You could give the Duets tour.
Yeah. Give the Duets tour. I'd love to see. I'd go on that just for the fun of it. And it culminates in a karaoke bar. Yeah.
Have either
winners
of you,
get killed.
Have either of you participated in or done karaoke before?
Many times. Love it. I love doing it.
What's your song?
Well, usually it is Whitesnake's "Here I Go Again on My Own."
Nice.
Lovely.
Yeah, I love that one. But I think one of the last times, weirdly, I was in Winnipeg, and I did 2 songs in karaoke. I did George Michael's "Freedom," and Black Sabbath's "Paranoid."
Wow, I had no
Such
idea. No idea, Lisa. I've never seen you do karaoke before.
I've also been known, and it was a mistake though. I was at a karaoke bar, and it was the last song of the night, and I got in and I did I don't know if you know any Black Sabbath songs. Paranoid's short, fast. I chose the biggest one called War Pigs. I think it's 8 minutes long.
Whoa.
Huge mistake.
Okay.
Huge mistake.
Here's what I think about karaoke songs. They should cut the intros because sometimes there's a very long preamble. It should be verse, chorus, maybe a repeat of the chorus, done. You should not have the full version of the song. You definitely shouldn't have any instrumentals.
No, I had a 2-minute guitar solo, which I'd forgotten about.
Wow.
So yeah, it was all a mistake. But at the same time, it was also a pretty dramatic way to end the evening. So
I remember a friend of the podcast, Louise Burns, who's a well-known musician. She had her advice for karaoke is to always choose a song sung by a man because there's not a lot of you don't have to hit a lot of high notes. It's always way easier to sing songs that men sing than women. That was
is a good
her general tip.
Because I did see someone try and do Carrie Underwood, and it was not great. I'll just say that.
Which song from this movie would you perform at karaoke if those were the only options?
Oh, Copacabana for sure.
Yeah,
that is the most classical karaoke song in this whole thing.
Well, also, and I'm with friends here. I wouldn't even need to look at the lyrics.
You could just fit the syllables Copacabana
know
to
that
the whole
whole
tune.
song. It's not particularly complicated, but I've memorized it somewhere along the line.
I know that
Everybody has.
as aforementioned, the Rudolph family didn't have loads of money for getting the rights to songs that would be a bit more interesting. But the newest song in this, I think, is Sweet Dreams by Eurythmics from 1983. What is going on? Again, who is this film for? Is it for boomers who only buy music at gas stations?
But so which song would you choose?
I mean, I've never heard Betty Davis Eyes except for in this film. Maybe I'd choose that just for the novelty. Oh, wait, no, there's a Pat Benatar one. That would probably be.
Oh, that's a good
yeah.
one. Yeah. That's right at the beginning, right? When he comes in.
It's not one of the main characters singing it.
That's when Paul Giamatti gets his first exposure, isn't it? And she's doing a Pat Benatar song. Hit me with your best shot.
He falls hard and immediately. Yeah, that's right.
And I felt bad for Maria Bello having to sing "I Can't Make You Love Me" in that one scene because it's just no one can. That's a really impossible song to sing because everybody knows the Bonnie Raitt version. And no one can touch it. And it's
exactly, no, it's too.
And it has to have that emotion in your voice to prevent it from sounding so corny. Like any other version just sounds corny.
And also it's nice when songs, there's a reason a song was chosen. Like here we are saying Copacabana. That makes sense. The guy had a Hawaiian shirt on. He was there to have some fun. That song made sense. All the other ones, like we were saying, why cruising? Because it doesn't make sense in the context of the film. The song is it's almost a throwaway. Because it's nice when songs have a meaning. The way they use a song on the end of Grey's Anatomy, which brings all the storylines together somehow. There was none of that in here.
No, I think it would even have been more of a comedic effect to have done thrown a Huey Lewis song
right
there. Presumably they could have gotten rights to one of those songs.
Yeah, and that would have been fun.
You don't have the money for me. So after getting cast in this film, Huey Lewis and Gwyneth Paltrow and some of the other cast members started going to karaoke. I don't think they'd been before, and Huey Lewis would get up and perform his own songs.
Really?
Is that good or bad?
That's pretty funny. I mean,
I suppose you would if you were him. He seems very confident in the film.
Yeah.
Well, and I was going to just note too, this movie is kind of not pretty to look at. The scenery is not nice. The cinematography.
Oh, come on. Utah's nice.
The clothing, the costumes. Oh, so bland. Ooh. Oh my God.
It was a bad era though, fashion wise.
Yeah, fair.
It's pedestrian.
Yeah, that's a good
in the way
word.
that it's made.
Yeah.
I think that Andre Braugher as well does the best performance. I think he elevates it some.
Yeah.
But what they've written for him is truly a cruel cocktail of him being both like this magical black man for Paul Giamatti's redemption. While Paul Giamatti's on this tear, Andre Braugher's character, I can't remember any of their characters' names, tries to fix his marriage, tries to take him out of situations like he's shooting up a hotel lobby where Brett Butt is the receptionist.
Right.
He's trying to save him from bad situations, but also because he's this fugitive with a gun, are you meant to think, okay, it's fine that the police kill him at the end? That he's been established as a disposable person who's just there for someone else? It's depressing.
When really, like, he's giving you the most to be emotionally attached to out of the characters in this movie.
Yeah. Very fair. Yeah.
So
Yeah, not even close.
Yeah. Anyway, so do any of us think this movie pops? Like, Helen, will you be watching it? Did you purchase this movie and will you be watching it for the 4th time?
I only rented it because to purchase it was $20.
Well, I mean, just given how many times you've sort of fallen into watching it not on purpose, I thought, I was like, in my head, I was like, you know what? Helen might be buying it this time just to save some money.
If she didn't already own it, that's what I was under the impression. So,
Yeah, on a VHS.
Yes, yeah.
I wouldn't exactly recommend it, but it is intriguing. And it was interesting reading reviews it got at the time where people just very often seem to say, I don't get it. It's so weird. I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah. There's no real feel or tone to it at all.
No. Because sometimes we watch movies that were made 20 years ago and we look back and we think it's like the worst movie we've seen and all this stuff. And then we look back at the reviews and they were just like rave reviews at the time.
Yeah.
We just can't figure out, like, obviously we were alive at that time and we just can't figure out like why in the year 2000 were those versions of us loving that film. But thank goodness that's not the case with this one. People hated this movie in the year 2000. So
sure did.
It does kind of make you have like think that our past selves are not like completely terrible and off the rails. Can you imagine? You look back on this and it's like, oh, it grossed like $100 million and
No,
it has
no, it makes you wonder about existence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gwyneth Paltrow said at the time it tested really well.
Oh, okay.
Why?
Yeah,
How?
where were you?
Because it didn't seem to do very well after that. It's a puzzle. And it also, it wasn't quite internet era. It didn't become like a cult classic later because it's just not fun enough.
Yeah. It just kind of, and it leaves you in a very confused place at the end of it. Yeah. And I think that cult movies, I think, have like leave you in a place of like, you're seeing something amazing or like there's something to grasp onto at the end. But the end of this movie, this science fiction buddy road trip movie is just confusion.
It made me feel the way you do if you go on some kind of business trip and they book you in a really sad kind of peach and pink pastel hotel near the airport, and you stay there and it's so bland and then you leave the next day. That's how I felt about this movie. That's my end
They
feeling.
do also stay in some hotel rooms like that.
Yeah.
So that matches. Yeah, and I'm trying to think if we're being unfair because there were forces at work that we don't know about that made it less good than it should have been, but I don't know if that's the case.
I'm not signing up for the director's cut, so no.
With 15 more minutes of gun violence.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah.
All the other like Oliver Stone-esque things they did. Actually, John Byram, the screenwriter, did go to film school with Oliver Stone. So
Wow. Okay.
maybe.
But where do you think that gun violence was deleted from?
Could have been
maybe
after that
after
robbery in
That convenience store?
chasing or something, yeah.
Yeah, or maybe after they had a sing, they then just murdered everyone in the karaoke bar.
Oh,
what
I
if
don't
that
think
15
anyone would feel
minutes-
that bad, though.
But what if that 15 minutes makes this a movie that makes sense?
I truly can't imagine. There's more than enough of everything that this movie has in the movie.
Agreed.
Yeah. I don't give it a pop. What
No,
about you,
no
Lisa?
pops from me. No.
And Helen, did we get a full accounting of what you thought? Pop or no pop?
In good conscience, I can't. And maybe people are wondering, why are we all talking about it then?
We're all going to be wondering that for a long time, I think.
It's a
It's
curiosity.
just so many mysteries. I'd recommend people go and watch on YouTube the song Gratuitous Karaoke Moment from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Okay,
which
there
is
we
like
go.
3 minutes of your life.
Yay.
Well, we like to leave the podcast on something we recommend. Lisa, would you like to go first?
Sure. So over the holidays, I did like a lot of people and watched Saltburn since it's now streaming on Amazon. And boy, that's a trip. I had a great time. I know that, like this film, reviews have been very mixed, but I had a great time. It's a wild ride. I don't care if it doesn't make sense. The soundtrack was great. It looked great. It was a lot of fun. It was weird. I didn't know what was going to happen next. I highly recommend it.
I don't know anything about this. What's it about?
Oh, you don't know? Oh, sorry. Okay. Saltburn is the new film by Emerald Fennell that did the,
Okay.
you know which one I'm talking about?
Promising Young
The
Woman.
Promising Young Woman.
Right, yeah.
Yes. So it's sort of been, some people have called it like a talented Mr. Ripley. I saw shades of, I don't know if you know, Brideshead Revisited. It's, set at Oxford, weirdly in 2006.
That's when Emerald Fennell went to Oxford.
Okay, there we go. 2006.
But apparently they're playing a computer game that didn't exist yet because it came out in 2007, stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't go that far into the historical accuracy of 2006, but the two men meet in university. One of them is very, very poor and sad, and he gets invited by the very handsome and rich friend to his home Saltburn for the summer. And that's all I'll say.
Okay. Sounds intriguing.
Oh, it is intriguing, but there's some scenes in it that will just, like, holy cow. That's all I'll say. Helen, have you seen it?
I watched the first 15 minutes and I was like, I'll resume this later. I didn't like Promising Young Woman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I'm going to like this. I am going to persist because I want to see Rosamund Pike in it. But
She's
I also
so
have read
good.
spoilers.
She's so good.
I love Rosamund Pike
Yeah.
playing vapid people. Watch An Education. She's great in it.
Yeah, no, she has some great lines, amazing lines. I can see why I've listened to like all the reviews and things, and I can see why it's kind of polarizing, but I still had a great time.
I promise you I will at some point.
Okay.
Okay, Helen, what's your recommendation?
A couple of weeks ago on a plane, I watched season 2 of Somebody Somewhere, and I know that you're more likely to cry on planes than not on planes, but I cried a lot on the plane. Basically, for like the last episode and a half, could not stop. And this is a TV show where the singing is really worth your time.
Yes. Love that show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bridget Everett, I don't know what it is. Whenever she sings, I'm just like ruined. It's just a fast track to ruination. But what a wonderful show. So many great characters, so many fantastic performances.
Yeah, it was one of our favorite shows that we talked about last year for sure. Lisa, I think, just was the one that recommended it. And
Yeah,
I
the
think
first
I've
season, and
seen
then we
it-
had to, yeah.
I've seen both seasons, I think, like 3 times.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm looking forward to rewatching because I liked the first season, but I loved this one more.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to recommend, well, okay, so a few episodes ago, I was talking about how in the new year, I wanted to listen to more music just for fun and just like take the time to listen to the complete album versus just like building a Spotify playlist and, But anyway, so the album I'm going to recommend is Our Roots Run Deep by an artist called Dominique Fils-Aimé from Montreal. And she's like an R&B, soul, a little bit of jazz artist. And this album came out in September. And it's something that you should listen to fully with like good headphones on and just like get into the album. Like her voice is so amazing. It's like that kind of classic, using it like an instrument kind of voice. And it's just mesmerizing. And the songs on this album are so cool. And it's a sound that I think is like really original. And I don't think you'll really find it in any other artist. But yeah, I've become a big fan just listening to this album over the holidays. It's the perfect like tone for 2024 as well.
Excellent. I didn't know what the tone would be, but now it's set.
Yeah, it's a very deeply kind of groovy, mellow, low key.
All right. I can go for mellow and low key. So I'm in.
Yeah. So thank you, Helen.
Yeah,
for
thank
joining
you,
us.
Helen.
It was a pleasure to have you.
I'm glad I wasted my chance to be on your show with this film.
That was my error. So you are welcome back anytime to talk about something that is of your choosing. And I will be clear that I understand that before I book everybody in to talk about something. So just let me know.
We all suffered.
We all did. But again, I will go back to my moment of texting it halfway through. Why are we watching this again? Like wild.
And I was like, I'm pretty sure it's Helen's favorite movie.
Yeah.
It's my favorite movie of all time. Yeah.
And then I felt really nervous about meeting you because I was like, oh, this is your favorite movie. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
It's my favorite movie, all my favorite music.
Yeah.
That's all I listen to, the Duet soundtrack.
Big Goop supporter, the whole thing. Yeah.
Oh, I love to goop. Love fake medicine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's funny, though, to reconcile, just a few short years later, she started on her jade egg journey.
You never know what's going to happen,
range.
Do you?
You just know that she will win.
Mm-hmm. Well, and because she hardly takes any acting gigs now because she's a billionaire entrepreneur.
As one does. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. You can rate and review us on your podcatcher of choice. You can. What is Andrea Warner's?
And if you want to send us an email,
yes,
to tell us, suggest a topic, maybe another, favorite movie of Helen's that we could do. Send in an email. Pop This Collective.
I'd love to learn what my favorite movies are.
at gmail.com. And then I say thank you, Andrea Gin, our producer and co-host here, for doing all of the big heavy lifting for our show.
And I say thank you, Lisa. I appreciate your appreciation.
Oh,
and
wow.
happy 2024 to everybody. Thank you for listening.
It can only go up from Duets, so.
That's true.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.